Oh my god, I am so excited, guys. So, what you don't know is that I just finished recording 4 videos about business, and I'm gonna grab some water while I'm talking to you. But I said, if I make it through 4 videos giving you some useful stuff on business, then I get to talk about whatever I want and whatever excites me, and that today is spirituality, and that's the stuff I like nerding out about. So today we're going to be talking about the map of consciousness, because it is such an important, interesting, and fascinating topic. So bear with me. So I've had 2 speakers now come talk, one on webinar and one in person, talk about the level of consciousness, and I just wanted to give you a little bit more comprehensive overview of what it is, how it works. And maybe in the next video I'll explain to you how it's measured. So, the map of consciousness. If you want to Google it right now and follow along, that will be useful. So, you should go ahead and Google the map of consciousness by David R. Hawkins. And have it in front of you, and I'll just walk you through. I have my computer here. I'll just walk you through what it is, the different levels, give you some statistics. And you can kind of locate yourself on the map too while we're talking, so you know where your levels of consciousness is right now and what your intention should be and where you want to be and so on. Okay, so what it is, it's measured through muscle testing, kinesiology, and so on, and we'll talk about how that works later. I don't want to get into it, but rest assured I'm going to explain that to you, how it works. It's a level, it's a measurement between the level of 0 and 1000. It's logarithmic, so the difference between 200 and 201 is very large because it's logarithmic. All right, so it's a scale of 0 to 1000 of different consciousness levels, 1000 being the highest that a human being can achieve in a human body, and that is the level of consciousness of Buddha, Krishna, Jesus, and some other avatars that I don't remember, but it's just a handful, really. That's as far as human body can make it, and as far as I've heard, only male body is strong enough to withstand that level of vibration. Okay, because it's not a pleasant thing to be. I don't know if you noticed, but I heard Buddha was complaining about his bones breaking, Jesus is complaining about sweating blood, things like that. So it's not a pleasant place to be. Anything about 700 is, the human body is not designed for that level of vibration. Makes sense? The nervous system just doesn't like it. Okay, so I'm gonna go up the scale, and then we're gonna talk about it a little bit, the statistics and things like that. So just 1 second. All right, so excuse me, I'm also going to use a tissue. Okay, so start a level of 0. So from what I remember, you don't want to be anywhere near 0. 6 is Jack the Ripper, I think. It's no good, no bueno. Level 20 is shame. Level 30 is guilt. 40, by the way, was Adolf Hitler at the time of death. And let me just tell you, he did not start there. He started at the level 440, which is very high. It's a level of reason. That's where US presidents are. Took the deep dive. It's called luciferic temptation, glamorization of the ego. Okay? Anyway, he went from 440 to 90 to 40. So that's 40. Level 50 is apathy, hopelessness, despair. Level 75 is grief, regret, despondency. Hopefully you're not locating yourself there, okay? Yeah, don't say yes yet. Level 100 is fear, anxiety, feeling withdrawn. If you're on that level, you view God as punitive. All right. Life seems frightening at times. So that would be somebody who lives at level 100. Oh, what's interesting about a level of 100 at the time that Jesus was born, and this is all the stuff I know from reading lots and lots of books and listening to lectures by David R. Hawkins, okay? So this did not come up from Eva's head, okay? So, I can give you the list of books, but basically anything you read by David R. Hawkins and his team is just straight up brilliant. Okay, so level 100. So Jesus was born at when society was level 100. So they lived in fear. What do you talk to people that live in fear? That's where the society, well, that's where the planet was, right? So it's quite interesting. Like, yeah, they didn't like very much what he had to say, did they, huh? Anyway, level 125 is, desire, level of desire. But this is what, we're not talking about genuine inspiration, desire type of thing. We're talking about neediness, wantingness, cravingness, being enslaved by our desires. It's kind of the instinctual, and constantly feeling disappointed by not getting something, right? Getting this and not getting this. Then we get into level of 150, that is anger, hate, aggression. Somebody who lives in 150 just tends to lash out quite a lot. They tend to be vindictive. They're very vengeful. They tend to be sort of antagonistic. I dated somebody who was that way. Actually, his level of calibration wasn't that. His perception tend to be like that. But anyway, it's two different things. But without overcomplicating things for you, because I'm just trying to give you the basics. Level 175 is a level of pride. So that's where my home country is. My home country is very close to my where I was born is 183. It's pride, but pride is I'm not talking like be proud of your country. It's more the self-righteousness, scorn, inflating yourself, right? The pridefulness. You know, prideful people around you because they're so full of themselves, right? It's yeah, it's still no, it's below the level of integrity. The level of integrity is 200, okay? Pride is 175. 200 is the level of integrity, and that is courage. So let's talk about this. If you are somebody, you're not, probably, otherwise you would have no interest in watching this video. With choice 0, you have no interest in spirituality if you're below 200. So most human beings who have any interest in spirituality are above 200. Anyway, if you were somebody who's in level of 150 or 175, and you think, okay, how do I get myself over to level 200? You're not going to go do a Course in Miracles because it would not make any sense to you. The Course in Miracles calibrates at 600 for the workbook, 550 for the textbook. You're not going to jump into 600 from a 175. You have to go to the next level. So what you do is, the best way I know to get you jumped into 200 is go to Landmark. And if you heard of Landmark, most people have heard about it. It's super salesy, which it is. However, Landmark, the form of the advanced course, does a brilliant job in having people own their stuff, be totally responsible for everything to jump over to level 200. It's like you see magic in that room. I used to just like go there and watch because like the biggest Joe Schmoo are living in fear and anger and despair and whatever, and then on Sunday afternoon they own their life and then all of a sudden life is awesome and they are actually in the level of courage. And here's why. I had a long time, I was kind of like looking down on Landmarks like, oh, it's too simplistic, blah 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 blah. Okay, but what I actually love about Landmark is the impact it has, because 70% of the world's population is below the level of integrity. Actually, I don't know if it's exactly 70%. I know in 1995 it's about 86%. 85, 86% used to be below the level of 200, below the level of integrity. So majority of the world, you're not safe to be around. Isn't that crazy? About 50-50 in the US. But also US is the highest calibrating country in the world, 425, okay? So, so 200 is the level of courage. It is absolutely critical. 200 is the level of integrity. Anything above 200 has truth in it. Anything below 200 does not have truth in it. Okay? I had an ex-boyfriend who is Wiccan. Wicca calibrates at 160. His mom was a Jehovah's Witness, 195. Yeah. Okay, so you want to be careful about what spiritual leader you're following. Okay? Because there is a lot of, and by the way, there's a lot of the new agey stuff that one should be very careful around. A lot of channeling, a lot of psychics, a lot of mediums, a lot of stuff goes on. You need to be very careful about the entity that's channeling and the entity that's being channeled, because a lot of that is coming from lower astral that has, yeah, there's a lot of that stuff is non-integrous, okay? That would be a whole other video. But what I'm going to say about that is don't use that as a spiritual distraction. Spiritual growth is very simple, okay? It's very simple. Meditate, be kind to people, own your shit, you know, transcend to the next level, but you don't need entity on the other side tell you to do this or do that. In fact, you're much more likely, much more better off and to just do the simple stuff, okay? So anyway, be careful of the lower astral. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so level 250 is neutrality. It's somebody who's trusting, somebody who's, you know, they view life as satisfactory. They're okay if things are that way. They're okay if they have a job. They're okay if they not have a job. They're kind of a pleasant person to be around because they don't have anything about much of anything, right? They're really neutral. You get into the 300s. The 300s are very much where a lot of entrepreneurship sits. It's very enthusiastic. It's very excitable. It's very high energy. Start with the level of 310. Willingness, hopefulness, you know, inspiration, optimism, intention. It's the level of 310. If that speaks to you, those words speak to you, then either your heart, your mind might be at 310, 350. Life feels harmonious. The level of 350 is acceptance, forgiveness, transcendence. 350s are very forgiving. They don't hold a lot of grudges. They own stuff and they forgive and they move on, right? Level 400 is the level of reason, okay? That's a level 4 to 499 is where you will find most college professors, scientists, as well as the US president. Vast majority of the US presidents were in the 400s, okay? And that's actually the optimal level for US presidents, is about 460. And something interesting I heard in one of Hawkins' lectures, you know, we tend to think that if something, the higher in on the map of consciousness is better, but not necessarily. Higher is not better, it's different. Here's why. Level 400s is very reason-based. It's really great to be a president and be 460. If you're 490, you're better suited as a college professor, okay? If you're 600, you're going to be completely useless to us as a president because you're just going to be sitting all day blissed out and people are gonna call a doctor on you because you're just in a total complete state of bliss. You don't need anything. You don't need to eat because you're so happy as you are, okay? And then whatever, you just kind of like don't need the body anymore. And yeah, some people leave their physicality and die and that's it. But anyway, so as a president, you know, and some people don't. Some people, when we talk about the very high levels, some people learn how to function with those high levels. Gandhi, I believe, was either 740, 770. I'm almost positive he was 770. Okay, but the amount of power, of a human being, Mother Teresa, by the way, 710, the power that human being has is it's like you have millions of people, the entire British Empire, and then you have Gandhi, right? Him just standing, not eating, and the British Empire collapses. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. Just by the sheer power of standing, right? And you have, then you can look at the history. It becomes really fascinating, like who was standing against whom, with their respective calibrated levels of consciousness, and things will start making sense to you why it turned out the way it did. Anyway, I skipped a few levels. So I was talking about the 400s. That's reason. 499 tend to be the level of it's Carl Jung, it's Einstein, it's Newton. It's as far as you can push the intellect. It also tends to be a stuck point for people who want to grow spiritually, and because you juice the intellect so much, you push it to the as far as it will go, but it requires a big jump from 499 to 500. 500 is a spiritual reality. 400 is the reality of the intellect, okay? It's the reality of the reasons. 400 is the linear, 500 is the non-linear. So, it's a big jump. Might just be 1 point, but it's a big jump, right? And for some people, luckily, I'm not very intellectually oriented. I don't get a lot of juice out of nerding out over science papers or anything like that. I'm just not that way. I find this fascinating. It's about it in terms of the nerd world. Okay, so and in a way it's an advantage, because that's not where I get stuck in my spiritual growth. But for a lot of people who are very smart, who are very scientifically, intellectually gifted, that also tends to be the stuck point, because they have to let go of it. They have to let go of the payoff of the sense of identity they get out of them being as gifted as they are. That's what happens to Einstein, right? He was religious at 499, but he was not spiritual. It's quite interesting. Anyway, so 500 is level of love. 4% of the world's population calibrates at 500 and above. However, 540 is level of unconditional love. Unconditional love. And only 0.4% make it that far. And when you look at some of the famous spiritual teachers, they're usually in the 500s. And what tends to happen, I'm not going to name any names because I don't think, you can do the research yourself, but there are some spiritual teachers that used to be, actually I'm going to name one name, Eckhart Tolle. He used to be in the 500s, huge influence. A few years ago, dropped to 250. The reason I'm naming him, because he did not fall below 200. There are some people who have fallen below 200, which is the critical level of integrity. And some of them are on television, and they sell all kinds of meditation tapes and whatnot. And their current level of consciousness is below 200. So you should not go to their workshops. And and it can be interesting, right? So you have the spiritual teachers, and what happens is that there's the temptation of the glamorization happens, and they get a lot of following, and then they drop, and the world doesn't know that they dropped, and they still think of them who they were 10-20 years ago, all the books they have written, and you still follow them. It doesn't turn out well. Okay, so whoever you're taking your whoever you're learning from, just look them up, look what their level of consciousness is. There is data on the internet. Some is good, some data is good, some data is not good, but if you need some good resources, well, definitely, this is good. Truth versus Falsehood is a good book by Hawkins. I just find it fascinating. It's like tons and tons of tables and charts of different calibration of historical figures, spiritual teachers, and it's just fun to look at. So I'll go there, plus other Hawkins books. There's a book of slides that have thousands of collaborations in it, and that will give you some help, and you will find, so my battery's dying, you'll find some useful stuff in there. So if you're looking at different books and you wonder, oh, did this author, how much does this author collaborate? Today I heard Alan Watts, somebody mentioned him, my roommate mentioned him, Alan Watts, and I looked it up, $4.90. So yeah, it's a realm of reason. You know, not my jam, because I like to read the stuff that's above 500 right now, but you know, a couple of years ago I would have read it. But anyway, so that is the map of consciousness and the percentages. So what to say about this? Like, we could be talking for hours and hours and hours, but I'll stop this video there, and in the next one I'm going to walk you through how the calibration works and all that jazz.